And welcome this week, Next Gen Millionaires. For those who don't know me, I am Joe Burns. I am the money master. Sorry, I had to make sure my microphone was on. I've done that before. Have you guys ever hopped on a live and not had your microphone going? I've done it a couple times. And it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Okay, man. Because there's no feedback. We're going to talk about feedback today. It's kind of interesting. Again, my name is Joe Burns. I am the money master. I talk about money and all things related to money emotionally. I love money EQ and what it brings and what we can do. And this week, I really want to talk about money being an emotional game. And it's really about an emotional journey that we go through. Um, each week, I look at different topics, right, that I want to talk about. Most of them inspired by people I am working with or who are working with me, or things I see in the media. Media are some good ones as well, um, about what's happening in the world, and I kind of break it down. So that's how I get up with my topics. Also, if as you're watching this, if you have interest in learning more about a specific thing or want to know my thoughts, just drop them in the comments below, and I will be sure to talk about that at a future date. So this week, money being an emotional journey. Right, I think most of the time in life, um, if you look back, money ends up being that thing that allows us to have or have not, but I don't know if we ever really attach um, consciously the emotions that we have with how money comes and goes. Um, we look at money being a journey in life, and most of the time, the journey conversation about money ends up being more of one of like our careers, right? Let's go there. How much do I make, right? When I first got out of high school, here's how much I made. Got my first job. Some of you went to college, some didn't, and you'll say, hey, this is what I got getting out of college. Um, and we look at money as a journey through life or our life in a way of like jobs we had and income that we had along the way, right? That's generally about the amount of effort that we put into what what it is that money's impact on our emotional journey through life is. Knowing that there's some kind of unwritten rule that, like, as we make more money, then more things are afforded to us. So I think we just phrase it that way, like, hey, I made this, I made so much at this job, and then moving on up into wherever you're at now or whatever your state of being is. Um, that now you're making whatever money you're making at your job, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter what that is, but it tells a story, right? And again, that story, most of us don't look back and say, hey, what are the emotions attached to money through this process? That's what I love to do. We're like, oh, this just allowed me to buy a house. This job allowed me to have children. This job allowed me to, start saving for retirement. This job allowed me to do X, Y, and Z, right? We've all had those stories. Um, then we enter entrepreneurship for those who are entrepreneurs. And then it's like, hey, I made this sale. It allowed me to live, pay my mortgage, to feed my family, to pay my employees, right? And now we're using money as that kind of next step of what can we do with what we're getting. And that's all fine and dandy. It's good. The problem is we never look at what the emotions are that are coming up around this money. Um, so the story, the reason why I want to talk about this is literally today had having a conversation with a client of mine, um, and they're in the process of moving, which is really cool. Um, and there's a lot of emotions around this move. And so my first thought's like, okay, so why? Right? That's what I want to look at. Whenever we run into problems around money, around how money's involved in our lives, I always want to look at the emotions. Why are we having this emotion? Right? Because not everybody's having this emotion. Again, our perspective in life is super important. It's the only thing that really matters, honestly. And if we can understand that, if we understand the way we look at the world, is how we base all our decisions, then what will happen is we'll start to become more conscious about what our outcome is. If I think this way and I get this result, then okay. And if I don't like that result, then I need to start thinking and looking differently, right? Well, emotions have a big impact on the way we think and we act. Okay. So as we're looking at what is next in our lives, so for this client, it's a big move. They're moving from one state to another, um, and there's like lots of hopes and dreams in this move, right? Um, and there's lots of emotions from previous moves and things that have happened in their past that aren't fun, right? So at the end of the day, the question for them that I asked after a little bit of conversation was, what emotions did you have last time this happened, right? Last time you had a big move like this, and how can you change how you feel about this next move? Because the last move that they had was not good, and this move is by choice, and so there's a lot of different things. But here's the most important thing: like as we look at that, right, and as we start to understand where we're at right now and where we're moving to, a lot of times we never stop and pause to be like, hey, last time I was in the same situation, how did I feel? What was life like? Right? What was going on? Because it's going to be different this time. Okay. And that's what I really want to drive at. It's going to be different this time. So if we can take a look at that and be like, well, last time it was this way or not this way, right? Perfect example for us is we bought a home in December of 2007. Now, anybody that knows the financial crisis and kind of the housing market dropout of 2008 knows that was probably the worst time we could have ever bought a home. We bought it at the very peak of the housing market at that time. On top of that, that's shortly thereafter was the episode that caused all the PTSD for Debbie. And if you want to get caught up on that story, that we talk about it plenty in our online space. So um, you can find that, like all that stuff that happened. So we bought it at a really bad time, to the point where we actually got a job out of state and we moved and we tried to sell it and we couldn't sell it for what we owed. We tried to short sell. There's a whole thing happening, right? Because of because of health stuff, we didn't have money, and there's a whole. Now it's a cool piece around money, right? An emotional side about like what we went through. But part of that was we lost a house, right? At the end of the day, the best choice for us was to just foreclose on it and try to start over, right? Which we did. Now, what could have happened was the next time we purchased, which was in December of 2018, so it was over 10 years later, we could have been in that same place as like where my client was, where all these old emotions started coming up around, oh, can we do it? Now, mind you, we've been paying our rent, like we've been renting for 10 years and never missed a rent payment. But all of a sudden, that pressure we could have put back on ourselves and been like, hey, how am I feeling? Now, through the processing and work I do for myself and what Debbie does for her, we were able to purchase, and it's been a wonderful experience, right, in our new place. But if we hadn't have been conscious of that, we probably would have been a little hesitant to buy again. Because last time we bought, what happened? Life-changing things happened is what happened, right? And we lost a home, right? A lot of people through that process try to shame us, make us feel bad about the decision for us to do what was best for us. So, a couple examples there, but what I want you to do this week is really focus in on what's the emotional push that money's involved in. I think is the best way to say it. How is what we're living right now similar to something in the past? How is it different? Where are we at today versus where we were then? Because if we can approach each day like that when we interact with money and understand there's a lot of emotions that are attached to how we spend, what we buy, how we interact with the world, especially when it comes to transactions, when it comes to the sales process within our businesses, when we decide as business owners to buy something, or even consumers to buy something. What's going on inside? Is it excitement? Is it fear? Is it kind of hesitation? Or is there sadness? Right? Really check in with yourselves. Because I guarantee you, if you can start to develop this skill, then interacting with money, making more money, being your true authentic self out there is going to be much, much easier. But if you go on the other side and be like, no, I'm going to bury that down. I want to look at that, Joe, because it hurts. It's painful, which in a lot of cases it is. Then the problem is we're going to continue to just do the same things we did before. We're going to respond to money. Money can't be our best friend if we're just responding to it. We can't be in control of what's happening in our lives if we just respond to the things that are happening. Now, does that mean that we're going to just respond sometimes to things? Yeah. Right? This isn't like, hey, Joe talked about this today, and now tomorrow I'm going to be completely different. It's a work in progress. But what I do know is as you practice this every day, as you ask yourself these questions, right? Is ask yourself, how's money emotionally impacting my day today? Then we can start to be very real with where we're at. And when we're real with where we're at, we know where we're at, then we know what we can do next to get there. But if we don't understand any of that, if we're not even aware of what's going on, then it makes it really hard to change. And we get stuck in these cycles. We end up in the same place we were last year, the year before. We're in the same place, maybe a little different than we were 5 years ago, but nothing changes. We're just still in that same rat race of, and it's not even the world rat race, right? Not even say that. It's just this internal cycling of money triggers me. So I do X, Y, and Z. And then I get in this spot where I don't like, and then it triggers me again. You can watch these patterns. So focus on the emotional side, right? Focus on what's coming up for you emotionally when it comes to money. And then ask yourself, what can I do different? And if you need to be like, hey, what can I do different? My channel has hundreds of videos, maybe not hundreds yet, but it's getting there. But it has all these videos out there of talking about different aspects of money. If you look at the attitudes, there's lots of tools I teach in each one that will then empower you to be able to make a difference. But if you're not even aware, if you don't even know what emotions are coming up for you when you're dealing with these situations in your life, again, these situations being sales conversations with potential clients, consumer buying, buying for your business, right? Buying homes, buying cars, large purchases, then it makes it really hard for you to really step into these situations with power. You got to learn to trust yourselves. But the past has taught you not to. Okay. So it's time to start really digging in to be like, okay, why do I think this way? What's coming up for me? Start trusting the answers you get and then acting on those. And as you do that, I promise you, you'll start making more money. You'll have a better fulfilling life. You'll be able to really start capturing these emotional sides of money that are already plaguing you. You're just not aware of them. Okay. So it's a fun challenge for this week. Get at it, see what you can discover. And I would love to hear in the comments from you what comes up. So again, until next week, we'll catch you later. Bye.